All right, ready to go again? Okay. Five, four, three, two, one. It's time. Hit the go button. My name is Sasha Moreau. Hello, Internet and normal people not in the Internet. Welcome to the first installment of Cue the View. I'm joined by my partner, Telson. We are the co-founders of a company called FairVU. That is FairVU. We'll get into all of that and what we're about later on. But first, we just wanted to give you some background about who we are and why we're doing this and going from there. And I talk a lot. Telson, say hello to the people, would you please?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first installment of Cue the View. We're really excited to do this. We thought we'd start off with just kind of a meet the co-founders, or meet the founders, I guess.
No, there's because there's two of us.
Yeah. But together we are the founders. So I'm not
true.
sure what the technical, but we'd love to just kind of give you our background and let you know who we are and why we're doing this thing, and then we'll get into what this thing actually is.
Well, and the number one important thing as to background stuff is we're musicians, and we go back, you and me, a long ways.
I actually have this is one of the first times we played in a band outside of our school, as far as like we played jazz band and symphonic band. This is, now, do you remember the first name of this band, first of all?
Foreplay.
No?
That's
That's what we ended up on. The first name was, and I don't even remember it, but it was 4 flying furnace filters filled with
French Phillies for fetching on Friday, or something like that.
So, yeah.
That was not the name of the band. That was the name of the song.
Well, I thought that was the name of the, and then Mr. Humphreys basically refused. He was like, that's too long. And so we cut it to Foreplay. And then he refused to call us Foreplay because it had a sexual innuendo. This is all in middle school, by the way.
8th grade, yeah.
So yeah, what did we end up? 4 players, I think, was the final. That was like our, okay, fine, introduce us as 4 players.
I'm pretty sure that Casson said, yeah, we're Foreplay, and
I think we did,
he said it at the concert anyway, which having been a teacher myself, like, you know, in the moment I remember like being like, no, it's Foreplay, it's all, it's great.
We were pissed. We were going to revolt, and yeah.
Being a teacher myself ago, I totally understand where Mr. Humphreys was coming from, being like, don't say that.
So you actually started on bass. You were kind of, and you've played drums on and off in a bunch of different bands. And but bass is kind of your go-to instrument, bass guitar.
Yeah, so my musical history, and part of why we're doing this is to just kind of give our background, because every musician that we are going to be talking to over the course of this podcast has a story, has a similar story. We are all joined together by this thing that we call music, which is this strange amorphous phenomenon of art that happens in the moment. Yes, we can record it, but that also loses something, and there's a feeling in live music that you just don't get anywhere else. So for me, I came from a musical family. Although my dad played clarinet in high school, and my mom used to play the guitar and kind of clink along and such with songs and stuff that she loved from the 70s. But neither one of them were professionals, but they were both music lovers, and I started on clarinet in the 6th grade with Mr. Green, and then I quickly progressed to, like you said, to playing bass. And bass was where it was at for me. That was my first love, and I was a bass player for 20 years.
I forgot you played clarinet. I totally forgot.
Yeah. I played for the first 2 years, and then seventh grade, I actually. I'm sorry, 8th grade. So I had played 3 years. 8th grade, I got good enough that they bussed me up to the high school to play in the pit orchestra for Bye Bye Birdie. I was like one of like 2 or 3 middle schoolers who got to go up and do that. And it was cool. It was intimidating, but it was cool. But the bass,
very
like,
intimidating.
Because I've got the whole punk rock thing, and like electric bass was where it was at for me, and I eventually got to string bass. But like, we'll get there. But I'm curious about you, because there you go.
That's a couple years later on bass guitar in a band that we'll we'll touch in a minute. What were you about to say?
We'll get there. So I was going to say, I'm curious about you because you have, for the whole of my life that I've known you, you have always been this kind of interesting multi-instrumentalist where I've never really known, like, I think it's keyboard, I think it was piano, but you got brass in there. I know that you've got percussion going on. I know that you sang for a long time. Like, you got a whole bunch of musical things happening with you. So officially, go on the record. What's your background?
Well, so it started, I think, with. I want to say it started with piano first, but I think it actually started with the tenor saxophone. I think I was on tenor sax was kind of my introduction, and then the instructor that I was taking sax from mentioned that piano was a good base for all instruments. So I simultaneously took piano and tenor saxophone. Then when I joined Mr. Green, and when you chose clarinet, I chose trumpet. So I played trumpet in the middle school, but it wasn't middle school. It was like 5th, 6th grade. And then we got to the high school, and I went to trombone, and then I also added. I really enjoyed mallet percussion. That was kind of one of the things that I did throughout high school, and
I
enjoyed thoroughly.
I cannot see a xylophone or a vibraphone without thinking about you. Just say.
Yeah.
You always had mallets in your pocket and doing stuff. And one of the things I want to bring up real quick, talking about got to high school and switched to trombone. Switched is the wrong word. Mr. Green, our band director, was always super hardcore about we do not switch instruments. We add instruments to the toolkit to be able to do that stuff. And that was a cool perspective. That definitely sort of shaped the way that I saw music going forward.
Absolutely.
So.
And real quick, I also, in addition to music, you and I have quite a history as really good friends. I have a couple of photos that I don't think you've seen at least in a while, if not at all. This was shoveling. We both grew up in Truckee, California, where snow piles up quickly. This is you.
If anyone's ever heard of the Donner Party, that was our hometown. That's where that happened.
Yeah. So a lot of times, this is life in Truckee. Also, we took a couple trips up to
Nice.
your family's property out at the Buttes. Had a lot of fun there, camping, hiking, that sort of thing. Also, we tried many times, and this is I thought I had a couple more photos, but basically we made statements constantly.
Oh yeah,
it was always a let's disrupt the norm, and but do it with class. We weren't
do it with class, and also jump in with both feet and see what's going to happen. So
no half-assing this.
Well, so just in terms of this photo specifically, that's a rented white tux, and that is brand new, fresh purple hair that I have. Guess what? Guess who had to pay for crazy cleaning on the white tux? Because as I sweated, whoa, purple all over the place.
No,
it got purple. I purpled my tux.
Oh. All right, that's a great story.
Yeah,
holy cow.
It's all good.
Also, in addition to music, you and I did find our way on stage. You still perform on stage, either
I do.
Through acting, but also as a magician.
Yep.
So you've kind of continued that on stage presence. I kind of this might have been my last acting gig ever.
That was our senior year doing Grease.
Yeah. So let's see. I was Danny Zuko, and I forget the character that you played.
That I was playing?
Yeah, which is
Kaneki, dude. I was Kaneki with greased lightning.
Yeah.
I'm seeing these photos for the first time, so you're getting a live reaction of me going down memory lane. It's pretty cool, actually.
So while I was kind of taking the honor band route and the scholar band. Like I did drum major. You kind
Yeah,
of went
for the marching band.
you kind of went the route of like cool kid band, and you played in a punk rock band called Gusher,
Oh
and
yeah.
you all had some stories to tell.
Talk about disrupting. Yes,
You've been
that
through
was.
it. You've been through. You literally were sued in high school.
Yeah, for oh man. So we'll come back to that momentarily. So the context on this, I feel super fortunate that I feel like I got the best of both worlds. I studied clarinet first, and then bass, and then I also played percussion in marching band, and I just studied jazz, and I studied upright string bass when we were doing the concert band. I was the only stringed instrument actually in what was essentially a wind ensemble with percussion, and I had to learn how to transpose on the fly up an octave from tuba music because there was no string
There was
bass
no
parts
bass
that came
part.
with concert music. So I got that. I got theory from that and an understanding of how to play in an ensemble and listen and do things. But at the same time, I got super into punk rock. And so I started a band with a bunch of friends, and we played from middle school all the way up through high school. So I got to learn the other side of music, and that, songwriting and learning how to memorize music so that you just knew it and it became muscle memory so that you could put on a show and perform um, while you were doing this thing with music. And it was really cool. And we didn't play a whole lot of gigs because it was, back Truckee was a very small, middle of nowhere town, way high up on a mountain before the internet was a thing.
Right.
And I can count on one hand the number of gigs Gusher did when we were in middle school and high school. It was probably five, and I don't think any of them were paid, or if they were, it was very very a pittance. But it was super cool. And yeah, you were right. We had definitely went through it. I put out my first record when I was 16, and that was with that band Gusher. We called the record Just One of the Flock, and we had this whole sort of punk rock thing about sheep and don't just be a sheep and go accept anything that you got. You need to be able to back everything up with evidence and do your research and understand about stuff. And it was like bands like Bad Religion, were like, no effects, Lagwagon, stuff like that. But like Bad Religion was huge for me because they pointed out with their music, hey, here's a bunch of injustices socially that are happening, and we can do something about it by calling attention to it, to speaking truth to power. And so we kind of did that. We ended up getting sued by the police department in Truckee, and I'm not gonna drop the dude's
We're
name
not
here.
we're not going to
Um,
go into it into the
but
technicalities, but you've
the
been through it.
technicalities, but but there was a new ordinance that was passed when we were in high school. We were juniors, sophomore juniors, and there was a new ordinance of no loitering, and so there were the police force in Truckee at the time, back in the late '90s, got super hardcore about enforcing that, and so they were shaking down kids and intimidating them and illegally, from my perspective, allegedly illegally searching them for hanging out in front of Taco Bell, like over near Safeway. And so we wrote a song that was speaking truth to power, and here was our perspective, called "To Protect and Serve." And in a moment of inspiration or complete dumbassery, um, in the studio, there was a monologue. There was a breakdown in the middle of the song, and there was a monologue that I had written, and I used the number one in our mind offending police officer's name, who had pulled all of us over, who had we felt super persecuted and intimidated by this dude. I used his name in this monologue, and in the monologue, it's a fictional thing of like him deciding, like, I'm gonna go harass some kids, and then like one of them takes off running, and he ends up shooting and killing this kid on suspicion of having marijuana. Which I never. The ironic thing is, I never
Yeah,
smoked weed. I never
that's
got into
pretty
that whole
funny.
thing. So we pressed the record ourselves. It was all done DIY. We recorded the record, 17 songs in one day, and then the second day we mixed 17 songs and learned that's not a great way to do that, but it was fun as hell. It was amazing. We released the record, pressed it to CD, and we were riding the high for about a week. And then I got a phone call from this dude and just died on the other line. And he was like, "Hey there, I'm going to be suing you and your family for $500,000 for defamation of character." And so our families, there were four of us. Our families got a first-class ticket trip through the legal system, and it was scary as hell. I had no idea if I was going to ever go to
100%.
college, if I had just,
Yeah,
screwed us financially for the rest of ever.
Your life is over when you get sued in high school. Like, come on, are you kidding me?
And it was, yeah, it was nuts. So it was in litigation for a long time, about a year, and I won't go into the specifics of what happened and how things were, but I will tell you it eventually was thrown out. And we asked for a summary judgment. The judge came back and said essentially any rational person who is listening to this can tell this is a work of satire, and it is not factual. And because of that, it's protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution, and therefore we find that there are no grounds to be able to have this move forward and with compensation. So that was that. Scary as hell, crazy trip, but also that was our art and that was our perspective of what was happening, and it was an education in and of itself doing that.
That's some real punk rock right there, dude. That's some real punk rock. Getting sued in high school. That's hardcore.
It was pretty crazy. So
we also later on we didn't form a band necessarily, but it was a performance art group. The Oedipus Rex Family Theater took many forms and shapes and sizes, actually. We did a lot of songs. We recorded some tracks. We also recorded skits and put together we felt was a full-length movie, which happened to be maybe 38 minutes long.
It was a short. It was a short film. But no, yeah, Oedipus Rex Family Theater. So that third dude in the middle there, that's Casson. Not Carson, not Casson, but Casson. And he grew up with us, good friend. And he and I came up with this concept in sophomore English because we had read the play Oedipus the King. Whereby Greek tragedy, and he ends up killing his father and sleeping with his mother and having kids, and then the whole story comes to light. And we were just like, wait a sec, so that means that like his brother is actually also his son, but like, well, wait a second. So then and it just got crazy. So that name, we just would do endless variations on that, and it was a comedy troupe, and we loved improv, we loved writing sketch comedy, sort of a la Monty Python. And yeah, music was a huge part of it because all three of us were musicians. That dude, Cass, I don't know if you can. I'm pointing to where I'm seeing it on screen, but I don't know if that's working. Up there? Oh no, up there. That dude, Casson, he went on to study music and has like degrees he's got degrees in trombone performance and music education and a master's in conducting, and he is currently working on his doctorate in music up in Eugene, Oregon. So music was
directing one of the Oregon State bands. I know he was just in the Rose Parade doing the
University of Oregon. University of Oregon. U of O. So amazing. Yeah, but Oedipus Rex was always hilarious, and the songs were irreverent
rowdy,
and oftentimes inappropriate and naughty. Yeah, but
yes,
fun as hell.
Yes, fun for so. After I mean, that's pretty much our journey through high school. Did we miss anything? I mean,
I think I just want to say in terms of high school, I got an outstanding musical education in public school, and I remember there being a bunch of ballots initiatives coming up and having to do that, and the community came together and approved a bunch of stuff and supported it, and I definitely would not be the musician I am today. I mean, I've been a professional musician now for 25 years or thereabouts, and I wouldn't have gotten that had I not learned it in school, and that started going from there. So it was just super important.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
think
agree.
that
Agree.
you you did you did drum major, so you were in charge of the whole marching band and whipping us into shape and getting us doing formations and playing and whatnot, which was super cool.
Yeah, it was a
You
good time.
did musical theater. You studied voice for a while, did you not?
I did. I did professionally. I was taking voice lessons more for. I began acting at age 10. I was
Mm,
Winthrop in The Music Man. Was an actual paying gig over the summer.
that's awesome.
We did a run of 30 shows over the summer, and I think I got like $150 for it. And then all throughout high school and a little after high school, I took voice lessons and actually found myself singing bass in a vocal jazz group. And
Nice.
we did a lot of just kind of recording. And then our major thing was we were carolers in the holiday season. So
Mm.
we would do that whole scene. But yeah, I did sing quite a bit, and I still do voiceover work. I like to sing, but not necessarily in a group per se. Although
Mhm.
I would love to get back into barbershop. That was one of the things I enjoyed quite a bit. We have directly after high school, Sasha and I uh, we 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 kind of got together and recorded a bunch. We were
Oh yeah.
writing, recording music all the time. We spent pretty much pretty much every other day, if not every day, a couple hours doing something artistic and creative. This is my
Yeah.
apartment um, out of high school. Actually, this is a few years out of high school. Um, we also, I want to point out that we were doing podcasting before it was even a thing. We got
Yeah, we
together.
called it a internet radio show.
It was, yeah. We didn't even know there was no such thing as podcasting. We were literally like, let's do a. So we were listening to this radio show. We enjoyed the the flow of it, the dynamic. We could do a great
Like a
job.
morning show, yeah.
Yeah, we thought we could do a great job, and we'd put it on the internet. And I mean, if we had continued this, it probably would have been something
Lucrative, yeah.
pretty big these days. But yeah, this was us over at your place. Actually, you put up.
Yep.
We kind of both had our little home studios that we set up, and so these are kind of the years right after high school. We were both at UNR.
Mhm.
What were you studying?
So I started off as a French major. I one of the great loves of my life is language, and I learned French in high school. I started teaching myself Russian when I was a junior, and just for whatever reason that was super exotic, and I fell in love with the language and the culture, and I ended up taking 4 semesters or 2 years at university, and fast forward, I'm marrying a Russian woman this year, so
It's amazing.
that
Congrats.
seemed to work. That seemed to work out. Thanks. But yeah, the so I started as a French major, and I made it about a semester in, and then the theater was just like, Sasha, come here, and I got the bug
Yeah.
hard, and so I initially graduated uh, with a bachelor's of arts in theater performance with a French minor, and then I came back to finish a French degree on top of that. I did study music for a while. I was in a jazz ensemble playing upright bass, and the theater thing just took me and ran, and that was that. So I did not continue my formal studies of music, although I played in a lot of bands, including one that you and I ended up in together.
So yeah,
Interestingly enough.
Fatal Contraption was one of the highlights, I
Mm.
think, for me at least. Mainly because the
Yeah.
music was so damn challenging and nothing like I had played before. I mean, you know, it was insane for me. Really, I wasn't used to that kind of music, and it was great for the chops.
So this Fatal Contraption was so that's you and me there, and interestingly enough, okay, so Fatal Contraption was not just a band playing songs; it was a concept, and we wrote music and songs that were interesting and did their own thing, and then we wrote narratives to join them together so that when we played live there was like a narrator and it was one long cohesive story that had to we played characters. So here I was Boris Foxtrot in that particular band. There's you as the Mexican mime, Armando McGee, which I
Yep,
still have you in my phone as that.
Blind McGee.
Whatever whatever you call and
That's my
text, that's how I'm
my
always like, "What's up, McGee?"
my gaming handle is Blind McGee. Off of
That's awesome.
that.
And then that third dude there, that was Matt Mangas. That was Flat, and he was a close, good friend of mine. He was. I used to like to refer to him as my hetero life mate and accomplice in music, and he and I played. He was the guitarist in Gusher. So we got sued together. We played together later in a band called Negative Nancy, where I was on drums and he was on. You won't have any pictures of that because I don't think I
I don't
have
know,
any
but I
pictures
do
of
have
that.
Dead Waitress.
Dead Waitress. Yep, that was him and I moving forward, and that was his wife Alice, and he eventually we there was a thing that happened. It was sort of weird. We got estranged for a while, and he ended up dying of a spider bite about 6 years ago now. Which on Halloween, because of course he would, because that's who he who he was.
Yeah.
But he was an amazing musician, and the songs that he would write. He moved to Seattle after he was at UNR for a little bit, or at TMCC. Went to community college for a while, and then he moved to Seattle, and was in Washington for a while, and then came back. So he and I wrote separately when Gmail was by invitation only, when it was just coming up, and somehow he got an invite, and I got an invite. We had so much storage because there was, wait for it, a
A
gigabyte of
whole
storage
gigabyte.
available.
A whole
What?
gigabyte, dude.
Like it was nuts.
And you guys
So
wrote
we would write songs.
verse to verse though. You would
Yeah.
basically that was an amazing concept to me at the time. That was super fun.
He would lay down a verse and then send it to me, and I would continue it on, but I would also sometimes change things, maybe
Hmm.
including the key, maybe including the
Hmm.
harmonization. He was also a crazy good lyricist. His lyrics were insane and
Brilliant.
wonderful,
Brilliant. Yeah.
and he used to use all sorts of strange time signatures. And in fact, I'm sure you'll remember this. We used to have a saying in Fatal Contraption: "Stop counting, you'll just get lost.
Yep.
Just play the song."
Yep. Yep.
And the weirdo thing about that band was we didn't have a drummer. Um,
Uh, wasn't
we had
there
the
a
metronome,
the metronome? That was that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
right?
gnome. The gnome.
And so
That
what
kept
we
sort of
that
tempo
kept
for us.
time, and
Yeah.
essentially Flat would program the drums using like a MIDI keyboard. He would,
Hmm.
and he'd go through and add the cymbals and the whole thing, and he would record it, and we would burn it onto a CD, and then we would play the CD on like my Discman and run it through the speakers, and we had a garden gnome that we would put in front of it, that we put like headphones on, and like gave him some like makeup, because metrosexual was a term that was in use back then to describe a man who was in touch with his feminine side, and it was not gay but was definitely yeah,
I
yeah,
just thought I'd throw that photo up, and
100%. That was me. So he was our metronome, which play on the words. He was our metronome, and it was weird. But Fatal Contraption had a lot of really cool, crazy, bizarre, strange, beautiful music
Mhm.
that I loved, and I still listen to that music sometimes, and
Mhm.
it's pretty cool. Flat and I went on to play in Dead Waitress, which was not a continuation. That was just like a straight rock band, and it was super fun. And I miss him.
Yeah, for
And this
sure.
one was
And then
that was cool.
what other bands? I mean, as the years progressed, what other
Hmm.
bands you kind of went from bass guitar to uh, rhythm or lead?
Lead. So
Yeah.
I had always I had mentioned Negative Nancy before, and Negative Nancy was a punk rock band with the singer for Gusher, and this is. I guarantee you, as we get into talking to other bands and musicians and moving Q the View forward and talking to a lot of people, bands are just there's no way to keep a band together. You just keep playing. And sometimes, when you find a good musician, you hang on to them and you move them to the next project and so on and so forth. And you trade a member out or add two more in and whatnot. So I was playing in Negative Nancy, and I was supposed to play guitar because I had always wanted to play guitar on that. I loved the guitar. I had my dad had a 1978 Gibson Les Paul that is like gorgeous and beautiful. And it's over there. I have it still. And I don't tour with it anymore. That's my studio guitar, because putting that thing under an airplane and hoping it comes out on the other end just like it gives me the the shakes. But yeah, so we were in Negative Nancy, and I was supposed to play guitar, and we could not for the life of us find a drummer. Like, we auditioned like three of them, and they just were not doing what needed to be done. In fact, one of them was I think he probably had taken a lot of drugs in his life, because we would work for an hour on one song, and then we would go and do a second song, and then 10 minutes later come back to do the first one to reinforce it, and it was like having to reteach it completely from scratch. And eventually I was like, okay, thanks, we'll call you later, that's all good. And I sat down and I was like, let's just play the thing. And there were two guitars, so we became a four-piece, and I was on drums for that one. So fast forward to after Dead Waitress, there was a band that Morgan was his name, that Morgan was singing lead for, called Me Time,
Mm-hmm.
as in I need a little me time, if you get me. And they were looking to add a second guitar player to the whole thing, and so I was like, I've always wanted to play guitar. Let's give it a shot. So I came and I auditioned, and that was it. So we got, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 solid years together as a five-piece, and that was a lot of really super cool music and
A lot of cool music.
fun punk
I
rock.
liked I liked a lot of the tracks that y'all were you posting on any streaming services, or did I just get like demo CDs? How did
Yes,
that happen?
uh, both. So streaming,
Okay.
like Spotify was just becoming a thing. We had our
Mm-hmm.
stuff up on like CD Baby, and like, do you remember? I think
SoundCloud?
Real was it Real Music? Sound?
Maybe
I
Real
don't think it was
Music.
SoundCloud.
Yeah,
But eventually, yeah, we got up onto Reverb Nation was what we were
there it
up
is.
on mostly. And yeah, it was like 90s style, like skate punk. And the thing that Me Time had going for it was you had me, you had the other guitarist Randy, and you had the bass player Patty, who all knew how to sing and could do harmonies while we were doing everything else. So there was
The
a lot
harmonies
of,
were sick. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, vocal harmonies going on, sort of
Mm-hmm.
in that Bad Religion style,
Mm-hmm.
which was super cool. So that lasted for 2 or 3 years, and that was how I met my current band, uh, United Defiance. Was we played with them? We played with them at a place called the Alley, which was in Reno. It was like a punk rock metal venue in Sparks, in downtown Sparks. And this dude, the Clinton, the singer, he walked up to me, and I was wearing some sort of like a 90s like video game shirt or something, and he started totally nerding out, and we were chatting about Super Nintendo, and he was like, did we just become best friends? And I was like, yeah, I think we did. And so Me Time became friends with United Defiance, and they would bring us down to the Bay Area in California, because they're from like kind of East Bay, Walnut Creek, Oakland, Concord, around in there. And then we would bring them up to Reno and Tahoe, like South Lake, and we would play gigs together and do the whole thing. And then when Me Time disbanded and went off and sort of decided to do our own stuff, Clinton called me out of the blue about 6 months later and was like, hey, we have a CD release party we're playing. One of our guitarists can't make it. Would you have any interest in like learning the songs just for this gig? And I was like, I'm not doing anything. Absolutely. So I learned their record, Safe at Home, along with all the vocal harmonies and stuff like that. And they brought me down once to like go over stuff, is what they said. I was under the presumption that this was just going over things. There was like a rehearsal. They were under the presumption that it was an audition. They wanted to make sure that I was okay. And so we're setting everything up. I made the 4.5 hour drive from Reno down to the Bay Area. And they were like, okay, what would you like to work on? And I was like, that's cute. Let's just play the set. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, where's my microphone? I remember Danny being like, do you need one? I was like, well, there's a lot of harmonies on there. Did I learn them for no reason? And he was like, oh, okay.
Nice.
And so we played straight through and played the gig, and that was super cool. We were opening for the Generators in Bakersfield, and that was almost 7 years ago now. I played the gig, and that was cool. And one of their guitar players, about 2 months later, decided to quit while on tour, and I slipped into the position, and here we are. And so
you're currently playing still. Just did a show
current band
last week.
We played 924 Gilman in Berkeley, which is like the most, if you listen to punk rock, you know what it is. It's the most famous punk rock venue on the West Coast. It's like Green Day and Rancid, and it was the center of the Bay Area scene. They all got their start there and played there. Op Ivy was there, and it was cool because it was just the most punk place ever, because it was all kids and volunteers who owned it and ran it. Like, they still have the membership meeting happens every week, and you can come in. It doesn't matter if you volunteer, you have a voice, and you show up, and it's a super big trip playing on that stage, because that's all the bands that I grew up listening to.
I remember you sending me a text of the joint with some photos, and it was like, damn, that's pretty badass.
Yeah.
So
it's good.
This is one of my favorite photos of you performing I think I've ever seen. So much captured here. The intensity with which you do your shows. You are just going at level 12 the entire time. And then also just the way that the music, like, it reaches you down to the bone marrow. Like, there is, it's just, music is such a part of you and who you are.
Yeah. Thank you. It's so that picture was taken recently, last December. We played a spot called SB Customs down in Los Angeles, actually, in the South Bay. And Marina Del Rey, something like that, South Bay. And super cool show. We were brought down by a band that we have befriended and like to play with, called Hoist the Colors. And they are like this amazing, like, Celtic, like, they've got a punk element to them, but it's not like punk rock. It's like, they're raucous as hell. They're like kind of like Flogging Molly style. Like, the singer also plays mandolin, and there's a violin involved, and 2 guitars and a bass and drums, and they will just like rip your face off in the best way possible with this incredible, like, working class from the heart, like, joy that just like comes out of the microphone. They're amazing. They're super cool. So and it's United Defiance has been super, super cool. You and I both talked about being professional musicians, but that does not mean that we have been able to make a living doing that. And it's because...
So what are you guys, United Defiance, independent artists?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How many albums have you recorded, or has the band recorded, and what is your method for distribution? How are you out there?
Gotcha. So we, as a band, we have put out, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get a call from Clinton later being like, wrong. He loves me. I would say we've put out four records and a handful of kind of EPs and a few singles from there. All of those have physical copies. We have CDs. Vinyl has made a huge resurgence in the scene, so we have most of our stuff is on vinyl as well. But we also are on all of the streaming services now. Spotify being the number one, but also Apple Music and YouTube and stuff like that. We do have we are on a label that's based out of Canada, but it's so Thousand Islands Records is the name of that label, and they have helped to push us, but it's a label in that it's a partnership, but like it's not like the way that you would think about like being on a record label and they're going to pay for
Yeah.
all the stuff and they're going to take care of. It's not
It's
like
more of
being a
an
universal
more of an indie
musician.
label.
It's a
So
friendship.
it's a community,
With
I'm sure, of
yes,
many bands that are unsigned
yes.
that it's helping them promote and sell their work.
And well, being signed and unsigned kind of doesn't matter anymore, at least for indie artists, because it's all the internet has made it possible to have your music be found everywhere, and it's a lot of stuff. So anyway, that starts to get into FairVU stuff. We'll get back to that. I want to come back and chat with you because you had mentioned that you
Yes,
stopped
sir.
you stopped performing. So talk to me after you and I stopped doing Fatal Contraption. Where did you go? What happened to your life?
Well, I stopped performing on stage. However, I was a mobile disc jockey. I actually got my first rig in middle school, and my dad drove me to a wedding that I got contracted to do. I actually didn't tell him I was 15 at the time, so I think they probably like had an anxiety attack when I pulled up and said I was your DJ. I was their DJ.
Awesome. I
And
remember that
so
business. Vibes Alive.
Vibes Alive, you came and helped me a couple times. So I throughout the years, I was performing. This was me at I did a bunch of middle school dances, and then a little bit later, this is me at a gosh, what association was this? It was Tahoe Donner. I forget what it is, but it was Sadie Hawkins dance theme, and I'm out there.
Nice.
I don't know, doing the cha-cha slide or something. So I've always kind of been a little bit of, still a performer, comfortable in front of crowds, but not necessarily on stage anymore. Also, not necessarily a practicing musician. I've kind of taken the more technical route after a number of failed attempts at UNR to find a degree that I could roll with. I took some time off and then decided to, with the support of my family, head down to Florida, and I ended up studying recording arts at Full Sail University. And I was actually in the first class that. So when I went there, they were just giving out the certificates of completion. It might have been an associate's degree. They were getting accredited, but it wasn't like I was going to actually have a degree. So that was kind of frustrating for me. Now, about 6 months through the 12-month program, they announced that they had just become fully accredited. And if we wanted to, I was the first class that could participate in a bachelor's program, and it added an extra like 8 months, I think. It was all an expedited program, so we were in class pretty much 24/7.
I remember trying to talk to you and you being like, "Yeah, good to hear your voice, dude. Shut up, I gotta go."
Yeah. One of the fun things about that school was their quote unquote real world education that they wanted to give all of their students. So we had labs at 1 a.m., 4 a.m., so that you knew what it was like to be in the studio at ungodly hours trying to get
That's cool.
sessions recorded and mixed. And yeah, we basically, it was an expedited course, and I came out with a bachelor's degree in recording engineering, which was great. I actually found a passion for Foley and sound design. And I actually there was a semester where we worked with gaming students who were in the game design department, and we produced their audio design for their demos. And gosh, it was a lot of fun. We died.
I didn't know that you got into Foley. I'm
Yeah.
legit learning that right now. What the
Oh,
hell,
really?
dude?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I recorded some music, and then I just did my own Foley in the apartment, and did some voiceover stuff, and it was a lot of fun. And I thought that was going to be kind of my I thought I had found my new home, and it turned out a few years later that live events was actually kind of my home. I wound up going to a local company that was in the hometown that we grew up in, Truckee, called Crux Events, and I quickly became the technical director, and basically I did it all. I did, in addition to audio, I did lighting and video. This
Nice.
is me doing front of house for I forget what band I'm doing. I mean, I've done too many bands at this location. And then we had a lot of other fun events where in this one I was basically calling the show and in charge of all of our translation and our, we had live interpreters, we had speech to text going out. This was an insane show, actually, to pull together. And yeah, so that was kind of what I ended up doing. I've worked the last 10 years in live events, and boy, I tell you what, I don't know what did United Defiance do during the pandemic? Did you
Uh,
guys were you able to practice at all? Because I know you weren't playing shows.
so interestingly enough, so here's what's up with that. We released a record first off. The night before lockdown started, I had just finished tracking in Oakland, and so I live in Vancouver, Washington. So in the Portland, Oregon metro area. Portland is like I run to Portland across the I-5 bridge occasionally, a couple times a week, on my morning run. So it essentially, I tell people like I'm from Portland. I live in Vancouver, but it's all pretty close. So I don't rehearse with United Defiance. I never have. I've never lived in the Bay Area. I don't practice with them. So when it comes time for us to play, I show up with my stuff ready to go. My parts rehearsed, and all of my harmonies learned, and all of my my gear ready to rock. And when we step on stage for whatever the first show is of that tour or that run we're doing, that's the first time that we have all played together since the last time. If it's 6 weeks or 3 months or 9 months or whatever the thing is, we took 2023. We took off because out of the pandemic. So pre-pandemic, we had just started playing festivals. We played a couple in Eastern Canada, up in Quebec. Had the time of our life, super cool. All of a sudden, we were opening festival stages for the bands that I grew up listening to. Me first in the Gimme Gimmes and Good Riddance, and to Face to Face, and just a bunch of them, super cool and weird and surreal. And then the pandemic hit and everything shut down, and we were getting ready to record this new record that eventually ended up being called Change the Frequency. And so during the pandemic, what happened was we learned how to work as a distributed team digitally, where I would write stuff. This comes back to Fatal Contraption, me writing with Flat and sending stuff back and forth. Except now a home studio was way better than it used to be back in the day. And I would send, here's a completed song with programmed drums, and I would have all of them learn it, or they would say, okay, hey, I hear some parts here. Can I add something? And then maybe they would record something over that, and I would send it back. And so we built a record off of that. We took our time. The pandemic forced us to slow down and take about a year as opposed to maybe 3 or 4 months to be able to do that. There's one song on that record, Demons, that chorus, which, the chorus in and of itself is probably maybe 22 seconds long, but that 22 seconds took almost 14 months to come together because it was written and rewritten and then rewritten and then slashed and then brought back in and then added and then vocals and then this, like, again and again and again and again and again, which was cool. So we were productive, and we did not play any shows, but what we did do was we live streamed twice. We went down to Southern California. Do you remember the band Yellow Card?
Oh yeah.
Ocean Avenue. So their guitar player Ben, we've met a lot of people over the course of our career. One of the cool things about punk rock is, for the most part, like, yeah, sometimes there are divas here and there, but like mostly everyone,
Right.
just a bunch of punk rock kids who
Right.
like love music. So we chatted with him, and he brought us down. He did something called Takeover Live, where he was paying his bills by having bands do live streaming stuff where they could come in, and we had masks on and we're spaced, and they would record us doing essentially a show, but recording it to two cameras and being live mixed in the thing, and that would go out. And so we did that. So that helped us to stay relevant until we could start playing again. And then right out of the pandemic, I think we did 2 years where we did about 17,000 miles a year, touring, a lot of shows, a lot of road covered in the van, and also via airplane. That the photo that you pulled up, the band photo of us, that was taken in Colorado after.
The band photo.
That's a different.
Gotcha. This guy.
Yeah. That was for our 2022 Canadian Invasion tour, where Clinton and Danny are beavers.
I just think this is great. This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing.
It was super fun. R2 and Bo, our bass player Rod, and Bo, the other guitarist, they're like Mounties, and then you got me, and I'm wearing makeup because I wear a bunch of stage makeup on. That's what you do, because I in addition to doing, you had mentioned doing magic. That's essentially how I've made my living, is by doing magic and grand stage illusion for the last 20 years. So I've been on Broadway. I've done America's Got Talent, and I've toured the world doing that. That's been great, and that the theatrical side of all of that absolutely informs the musical side of things. And I do stage makeup with heavy eye stuff, so that if I go like this and I go, like, it punches you in the face from across the room. But yeah, so we toured a lot, and then we decided to take some time off in 2023, and then we're sort of back at it and doing our thing, hammering stuff away. So it's been,
let me tell you, live events took a beating during the pandemic. You guys were lucky that you had each other to work with, and that you had some projects to work on. The production companies, the venues, they were hurting.
Dude,
man.
It was an extinction level event for everybody.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they got to, and this is not me throwing shade at anyone and being like, you didn't suffer as much as I did, but for people who got to go to work at home and just sort of stay back and do the thing, like, that was not what it was like for artists. It was nuts.
No, it was
and
tough.
you somehow survived. Tell me about the experience.
Well, we spent a couple months wondering what in the hell was going to happen. We lost 90% of our employees. Basically, we had our VP of operations and our director of operations both leave to go because they had families and mortgages to pay, and because we basically all were taken off of payroll. Pretty much once it was the quarantine era of the pandemic, we were all off payroll and nobody was getting paid. Because nobody was around, I came in, and I actually had a buddy who worked with us that stuck around, and we kind of tore up the warehouse, and we built a studio inside the warehouse, and we started to basically implement all of our live event production, all of our video and whatnot into virtual productions, and we figured out how to live stream and what platforms were popular and which platforms were going to work for us. And that's kind of how we ended up making it through. We also did some live streaming. So we're up in Truckee. We have, at the time, we had the ski racing for all the kids was going on. So we actually put together a live stream because the parents weren't allowed to go up onto the hill and watch their kids. So they were all sitting in their parking lot on their phone watching us stream the ski racing on Twitch. And so it was during this time that we found a bunch of platforms, and we were kind of making it work, but I realized that none of these platforms were really designed for what we were doing or what we wanted to do. And I felt there was a big market opportunity for some live streaming platform that allowed entities, whether they be bands or in this case it was a school or a ski resort, to live stream their sporting events or their musical performances or the theatrical performances, and have that be an additional offering to their fans.
You and I've had plenty of conversations about this, founding the company as we have, and one of the main things that we've discussed is not necessarily inventing anything new, but putting those parts together that are useful to everyone, because musicians need a certain amount of things in order to exist in this particular ecosystem now, both post-pandemic and with such a strong digital footprint and brand that is necessary for people to be able to do that. And this might be straying into a different episode that we can get into the specifics of what we're up to. But I think this is timely, and I think you can expect, and I'm talking to all y'all in the internet now, good things coming.
Absolutely. No, I think we'll tackle a little bit more of the details and go through what we are actually building on the next episode. So thank you for joining us on this journey through the past, and we hope that you will continue to watch the journey of FairVU and be a part of the journey.
Absolutely that. That's my partner, Telson. My name is Sasha Moreau. This is Cue the View. See you guys later.